welcome back to the Roundup, the show where I, Jake Whitwell, summarise and explain the news from UK politics throughout the week. This week there was a lot of foreign policy news, and if I sound funny, it's because I'm a little bit ill. Anyway, let me get into it. Sky News noted Sir Keir Starmer has said he is absolutely confident in the Chancellor after a week of protests from farmers, a month or two of worry for pensioners, and warnings from employers about job losses. One would sort of be forgiven for questioning Rachel Reeves and her, ability to do the job. Starmer seems to have no issues with her though, insisting he has confidence, absolute confidence in the embattled Chancellor. He defended the Chancellor and then went further, saying his government needed to stabilise the economy and that it had already attracted investment which wasn't coming in under the Conservatives. The Eye covered the Waspy scandal and suggested Starmer has said a decision is imminent. For those who don't know, the Waspy women, they are a group of women who are campaigning against state pension inequality. The group, aptly named Women Against the State Pension Inequality, have been campaigning for compensation for years, arguing that the Department for Work and Pensions failed to alert them of a rise to the state pension age, which made them all poorer. A report into the matter recommended that the women should be compensated somewhere between £1,000 and £2,950 each for the failings of the department. It's worth noting that the campaigners claim each victim has lost out on £50,000 though, so there's a big difference there, and I'm sure there would be unhappiness even if they got the upper amount of £2,950. Anyway, regardless of that, the campaigners would have been forgiven for seeing hope at the general election. When Starmer criticised Sunak for kicking the can down the road instead of dealing with the issue, the problem is that since coming into power, Starmer has done much of the same thing, but now he's said Liz Kendall, the Department for Work and Pensions Secretary, will be making a statement on this issue in the not too distant future. The Independent noted Liz Truss has claimed Britain needs to own Donald Trump. The former PM called for a right-wing revolution akin to what many expect to happen in the US. She called for the best of Nigel Farage's Reform Party and the Tories to create a fighting force to combat the very powerful bureaucracy which she says limited her in office. The Times detailed Xi Jinping has said Labour can reboot China relations, or the UK's relations with China. He said Starmer can break new ground and that the new government is working to fix the foundation of the economy and rebuild Britain. Said in reply that it is in the national interest that the UK should have a relationship with China, who are one of our biggest trading partners. He did say he wanted to engage honestly and frankly on the areas where they disagree, but nonetheless the meeting has been criticised by Conservatives like Jenrick, I think he might be the Shadow Security Minister, who accused Starmer of being weak. Interestingly, it's the first time in 6 years that a Prime Minister has met with the Chinese leader. ITV News noted Starmer has accused Russia of irresponsible rhetoric, with tensions rising this week. This came after the Russian military claimed Ukraine fired 6 US-supplied long-range missiles into Russia. He said the UK must support Ukraine, but did not confirm whether or not the UK would authorise the use of shadow missiles in Russia. Nonetheless, the Russian foreign minister, who I won't name because my pronunciation would no doubt be shocking, said the attack marked a qualitatively new phase of Western war against Russia. But that features more in this episode later on, so we'll go back to it. ABC News noted the winter fuel cut to pensioners is set to put an extra 50,000 pensioners into poverty. This figure seems to be additional on top of the numbers already reported, and the Work and Pension Secretary Liz Kendall, who's already featured in this episode, busy week for her, said that the estimates did not take into account the take-up of the pension credit scheme, which should ease the burden of the policy, and I think the uptake was relatively successful. It was back in September now. I can't remember the exact details now. The BBC News article stressed that there could be slight variations in the 50,000 figure because it has been rounded up or rounded down to the nearest 50,000. Right, the Independent observed Penny Mordaunt has urged a closer US-UK relationship after taking up a new global development role. Mordaunt is now leading a group promoting the UK's role in global aid. She said that we must stay engaged and in partnership with our we must stay engaged and in partnership with our closest ally. She said that when Britain and America thrive, so do the rest of the world, which she knows. The Telegraph noted Mandelson has urged Starmer to use Farage to improve the UK's relationship with the US. This comes after after Farage has offered to take up the position of foreign ambassador, but Labour ministers have waved it away. Mr. Mandelson said has told them to swallow your pride and you've got to get over it. This comes after many Labour ministers have had a history of bad-mouthing the new president, and in recent months where Elon Musk has been feuding with the Labour government on Twitter or X. The Guardian reported Starmer has twice declined to condemn the jailing of Hong Kong pro-democracy figures. Starmer has declined to condemn the political imprisonments, insisting that he must protect future economic opportunities for the UK. He's been condemned by Ian Duncan Smith, the former Conservative leader, who himself is subject to sanctions by Beijing, and who also labelled Starmer so desperate for trade that he will turn a blind eye to all future atrocities. The Eye reported Number 10 has said farmers are free to use loopholes to avoid inheritance tax, and that's not actually true. What was actually said was that the Environment Secretary was from the Environment Secretary Steve Reed, who suggested farmers should plan their tax affairs as most businesses or asset owners do to limit their liability. That isn't strictly saying go and use loopholes to avoid tax, and so it's a bit of a got you article from the Eye. Anyway, the government has obviously denied that it's encouraging farmers to find ways to judge taxes, with a spokesperson for the PM saying it's always been the case that people are able to seek advice around their arrangements. So there you go. The Telegraph noted a minister has admitted Labour has opened more migrant hotels than it has closed. Dame Angela Eagle, the Border Security Minister, has said the number of hotels being used to house asylum seekers has increased from 213 to 220 since Labour took power. I think they closed some, but they opened more than they closed, so that's great. That means there are currently 30,000 migrants in hotels, and the cost of that being 4.2 million a day to the taxpayer. The Tory MPs have accused Starmer of breaching his manifesto election pledge to end the country's reliance on asylum hotels. The Independent reported warnings from one military chief who said the UK is lagging behind its European allies in war readiness. Admiral Sir Tony Radakin, the chief of UK Defence Staff, said the country's culture of natural resilience is weaker than some of its European allies, and that the country still had a lot to do to catch up on civilian readiness for war. The Guardian detailed Ukraine has fired UK-made missiles into Russia for the first time. There was no official confirmation of the missiles, that they were British, but it has been reported by successive sources in the UK press. So we're working on the assumption that they are UK missiles. According to The Guardian, the decision to approve the strikes came after the deployment of North Korean troops on the Russian border with Ukraine. The American already approved strikes of a similar missile variety earlier in the week, but obviously the UK has delayed itself with that. The delay came after criticism from the Ukraine government over not supporting the country properly. It seems they've now got their proper support. Russian ministers have said they will respond appropriately, but crucially the Pentagon and in the US has noted that there is no evidence Russia plans to use nuclear missiles in Ukraine. LBC detailed Matt Hancock has told the COVID inquiry the government did everything we possibly could during COVID. Hancock, booed upon entry to the inquiry by people outside, not those in the actual inquiry, gave evidence in the COVID inquiry for the third time over its duration. Alongside his comments, he admitted that decisions were not all perfect, but that he felt they were broadly right. Sorry, really itchy nose whenever I record. Maybe it's like a nervous thing, I'm not sure. The Independent covered its budget with the biggest firms warning of job losses and price hikes. I already sort of mentioned this in one of the other articles, but the firms accused the government of failing to engage with them ahead of the budget. And there were survey results from people in those industries where the respondents said 2/3 of respondents said the budget will make the country less attractive to investors. As well as this, they've warned of price hikes and job cuts. 4 News noted John Prescott, a titan of the Labour Party, has died at age 86. He played a key role in the modernisation of the Labour Party and famously punched the protester, and served a decade as the Deputy Prime Minister. He has died with Alzheimer's on Friday, we get rid of that bit. The Telegraph reported Starmer supports the arrest of Netanyahu. The decision means that the Israeli PM Netanyahu faces arrest if he visits or enters Britain. A spokesperson for Starmer said, "We must respect the independence of the ICC. They are the international body that brought the charges, but the Conservatives, on the other hand, called the decision concerning and provocative." The Telegraph also detailed SNP ministers have said equality laws protect women. I think it's protect trans women. I think that was actually the title. But legal protections for pregnant women can apply to pregnant men, is what is being alleged over the definition of women by these lawyers. They are alleging that due to precedent in a Court of Appeal case where a trans man had been noted as mother on their child's birth certificate, the definition can be expanded to protections for pregnant men or women, trans men who get pregnant because they've still got the female right. The ruling was also start a conversation and suggest that it was unlawful for women-only clubs and associations to exclude biological males with GRCs, and those are gender recognition certificates, which are currently needed as part of that, or as part of the legal transition process. Obviously, socially it's a bit different. The Independent reported Kemi Badenoch's honeymoon has ended as new polls shows farmer protests failed to hurt Starmer. A popularity poll by Techni UK, which is becoming a weekly feature of this show at this point, saw a small increase for Starmer to give him a 2-point lead over Badenoch. But she was expected to go ahead of Starmer this week with all the protests and that sort of thing. A former Conservative minister has said that she needs to start saying what she wants and what she wants to stand for. I read somewhere that Jenrick is saying that she needs to start actually putting forward policies that are just talking, or prospective policies, being a credible alternative for government. Interestingly, despite that, I saw last night, and it wasn't in a news article, but I saw a petition that's rapidly gaining signatures that wants to call a general election. I'm sure I'll try and find something on that to put into next week's episode. The Guardian noted a tribunal has ruled pro-Brexit views are not protected from workplace discrimination. The ruling noted that wanting the UK to leave EU, I wrote down the UK, is an opinion and not a philosophical belief, and so protection on those grounds cannot be granted. It comes after there was a bit of a back and forth over a pro-Brexiteer woman who claimed that she was harassed and bullied in her former role at a charitable organisation. I can't remember her name now. Another slap on the wrist, that's 2 for this episode, so it's going really well. The Mirror covered the tobacco and vapes bill currently going through the Commons right now or next week. So on Tuesday, the prospective ban of tobacco. So the bill on Tuesday will go through debate in Parliament, and if it goes through, it will ban. Well, it's obviously got more steps to go through. In its current form, it will ban tobacco being sold to people born after 2009. A similar bill was proposed by Sunak last year and it was ditched, but it seems to be rejigged as part of a broadened policy. The bill in its current form would also ban the advertising and sponsorship of all vapes and other nicotine products. It's the same bill which we all saw and were shocked about last month when it was leaked to the media as a ban for smoking outside pubs. It's been amended and that is no longer part of it, probably because of the backlash to it, although they would never admit that. But the Public Health Minister, Andrew Gwynn, I think his name is pronounced, honestly, shocking with names, said he hopes the bill will tackle youth vaping. He said that he urges his fellow MPs to be on the right side of history and vote in favour of the bill. The Telegraph reported Labour has committed £70 million to foreign aid spending while taxing farmers at home. That doesn't seem good now, does it? Right. Annalise Dodds, the Development Minister, reaffirmed the country's commitment to the Global Hunger and Poverty Alliance, which will tackle food security and fund agricultural businesses across Africa and Asia. Ms Dodds said the climate emergency has meant it's time for a new approach, and that's the reason for the investment, the foreign investment. But the Telegraph did actually contact Labour over this. They didn't respond. But the Conservatives have criticised the measure as prioritising foreign farmers while British livelihoods are destroyed by cruel inheritance tax changes, which sort of tells you a bit about the fallout for the budget and makes you question why they're doing that sort of policy now. It's just so comparable, it doesn't make much sense. Anyway, that's all the news I got for this week. Thank you for listening and watching. I hope you found it useful. Stay safe. I'll be back next week.